So, we're talking about where it all began, the dark origin of hazing. Before the beatings, before the bottles, before the silence, there was a beginning. Hazing didn't come from nowhere, it was a history, a blueprint, and it's darker than most of us ever imagined. Even most of us can even fathom to accept. This is the story of how hazing began and how it survived. Welcome to Cultured Unplugged, where the silence ends. I am Uncle Chris, the host of the show, where we talk about hazing in its raw form, the victims that have been affected, both alive and deceased, and the parents that are willing to share their stories, as well as the survivors. So thank you for being here. As if you're a new member, we appreciate your subscription. We hope that we continue to earn your subscription, and we thank you for your time to stop by. If you're returning, thank you as always for your support and being able to help share this video and be able to shine a light on this dark history and origin of hazing. So you don't want to go anywhere. You'll want to watch the entire video. I will say that some of the discussions may be a little bit difficult. There's certain things that usually kind of affect me in various ways when it comes down to the conversations like this. But since we're talking about some historical information, I think some understanding of how all this hazing comes about, we'll need to make sure that you have a full understanding and ways that we kind of address it, and maybe we can kind of put a stop to it essentially. So one important information here I want to share is we have a survivor who is a current student at Bowie State University and in Maryland. And so this gentleman will share essentially his story, and he'll be speaking with us live 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here. So you don't want to miss this conversation. You don't want to miss what he is going to reveal with us. And so from the information that I've got, it's very rough. And so anyway, I will save it. You'll want to be here at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next week, Monday. I believe that is the 19th. Yeah, you'll definitely want to be there. Otherwise, don't go anywhere. This is where the silence ends. So we're talking about where it all began, the dark origin of hazing. Before the beatings, before the bottles, before the silence, there was a beginning. Hazing didn't come from nowhere. It was a history, a blueprint, and it's darker than most of us ever imagined. Even most of us can even fathom to accept. This is the story of how hazing began and how it survived. Welcome to Cultured Unplugged, where the silence ends. Today, we're digging into that raw truth of the origin of hazing, what it is, where it came from, and how systems of power, pride, and pain have made it a tradition that kills. This isn't just about fraternities, though. This is about military rituals, secret societies, elite boarding schools, and the long line of institutions that believed that breaking someone down was the best way to build them up. So we have to understand that there's this common theme, like I have to change you in terms of hazing goes, or in a fraternity or sorority or any organization. I have to change who you were to be reborn into something that is who we are. And I think that's just where things take a big dark turn. So hazing-like behavior really goes back thousands of years. And don't get tripped out when I bring this up, but here we go. In ancient Sparta, young boys were taken from their families and forced into military camps where they were beaten, starved, and punished to harden them into the warriors. So we understand that even to today with modern military training, and you want to be part of the Marines, especially, you have to go through rigorous training to but this is military, right? But stick with me with this one. So the military has long used forms of initiation. Many, of course, as we know, brutal, as a way of building loyalty. From Roman legions to modern boot camps, the belief was endure the pain to really earn the belonging. Quotes from historians and psychologists help explain this. When belonging is earned through suffering, the group becomes sacred. That's by Dr. Aldo Cimino, who was also a Hazing researcher. So we'll look at how this ideology of pain as a rite of passage bled into the modern institutions. And so let's kind of look into understanding how things kind of worked here as far as how these secret societies and elite schools kind of really play into this. So let's fast forward. 1700s and 1800s, these elite universities in Europe and America, we know many of them, began forming these secret societies. So these are really these prestigious schools. I think Yale is one of them. I guess you throw in like Cornell. Like the really historical schools have been around. Princeton, been around for a long time. So they began forming these secret societies and exclusive student groups. So you want to think Skull and Bones at Yale, and then or Bullingdon Club in the UK. So to get in, you had to suffer. Whether it was drinking until blackout, being humiliated, or performing dangerous stunts, hazing was really about proving your worth to an in group. So it's about the access of being able to get in to this particular group that has the, for whatever reason, the ideology or the thinking that there's an opportunity there. If I'm a part of this organization, I can then get access to the people who can change and have the power. It's about, when you really think about it, to this initiation process, the focus point of it, it's really being a part of power. It's really about getting in and getting into this space of having some level of power, being around people who have power or the sense of power. The thing about the organizations, though, is that once you get in, from how I've seen it and viewed it, you know, there really isn't much more substance to it, in my opinion. But I digress. Let me keep going. But yeah, to get in, you had to suffer. So whether it was drinking until blackout, humiliated, it didn't matter. These practices were normalized hazing across schools. They basically normalized the practice of it. Fraternities and even military academics or academias like West Point, even, you know, very noble, notable campus as far as military school, West Point. Definitely, I believe hazing has happened there. Where cadets were once brutally hazed in really the beast barracks, what they called it. So yeah, this is stuff that doesn't happen just on regular college and universities. This is a sporadic practice. Hazing in fraternities, and then of course looking at the campus life though, when we look at how it's really become historical on the US side of things, by the early 1900s, fraternities were exploding, of course, across the United States. And so was hazing, paddling, the branding, alcohol abuse. The more elite or exclusive the group, the more extreme the initiation. This was about if you saw or valued this particular elite group that's pretty much has this reputation that you could be this person, you could be that person, or it has produced these scholars or professionals that's made all this money, has this wealth and this power. You put yourself in your sense, you'd sacrifice yourself essentially to do whatever it took. So you gotta get that same level of, again, power. Many fraternities justified it as building brotherhood, but in reality, it was unchecked abuse that was passed down like a toxic inheritance. We highlight the infamous, even early cases, including deaths that occurred as early as 1873 at Cornell University. Cornell University, right here in the DC area, I'm sorry, like, really? Cornell, I'm sorry, not DC area. It's in Ithaca, New York. So these are the kind of things you see time and time again. These are this was a practice that was even at schools that were considered to be prestigious. So quick fact here, the first known hazing death in a U.S. fraternity was Mortimer Leggett, who died during a Phi Kappa Psi initiation at Cornell in 1873. And of course, as we already know, the culture grew. It never stopped. So why does hazing survive? Even when people know that it's dangerous, we have to look at the psychology. So this is really, many people have addressed it as trauma bonding, where people find comfort in the aspect of bonding through really brutal acts, where it's something about coming together. For me, as I remember it, as far as the things that I went through, I'm a survivor of hazing. From my experience, I just felt like everybody on the line, the pledge line, was saying, hey, this is something you got to go through. We got to go through this. But there's a better part of this on the other side. Like, there's a better experience of being a part of in a fraternity once we get there. Once we finish, we just got a couple more weeks, man. We just got to remember information and don't always have the intensity, and being encouraged. For the dean of the line told me, it was like, yo, once you get the aspect of being able to get girls, like any other young guy on a college campus, being able to go get the opportunity to have all these girls that are going to be going crazy over you. That was what was sold to me. That was the aspect of the reward, essentially. So it's a group thing. Nobody wants to be the one to challenge the group. You're on an island by yourself. Everybody who has already gone through what they have gone through, just think about it. If you don't know how long this process of pledging is going to be, when you're on that line, you have no clue. You just want to get to the next stage because you're promised that that's going to get you closer to the end. And we only know it's going to get worse, and worse before it gets easier. But the idea again is like, you've gone through all that. Why would you just want to quit? Why would you want to just drop? Why would you want to just, like, that's the thinking that I remember having. I remember having, like, I don't want to be the guy that gets everybody, even though I was the guy that got everybody to just stop, essentially. But if my situation didn't happen, who knows where I'd be? Maybe I would have let's say I didn't have to go to the hospital, and I survived, and I basically went into this next phase of my experience, and would have been a member, and who knows? I would not have had the opportunity to be able to talk to you and tell you, why I think really hazing is wrong. Sometimes things happen. You got to be able to be pulled away from it. Anyway, I'm just trying to save some lives, y'all. This is a cognitive dissonance. Someone else said this in a comment about when I talked to the couple who were a part of Divine Nine organization, and I agree. There's a cognitive dissonance with it. That, what, I suffered, so others should too. This idea of, well, everybody's already done it. This is a part of it. If you're not doing it, then you're not going to be respected. But you also realize, and you hear from older members who would look back and say, I would never do that again. I was stupid. Like, why would I even do that? So is it an immaturity thing? Is it about maturity? Is it about being, having some level of common sense? Do we need to just raise the age limit to be a member? I mean, these are facts. This is what we got. I mean, this is what we really got to consider. Anyway, let me keep going. next part here, survivor bias. So only those who made it through get to tell the story. Yep. This is the psychology of it. I'm a survivor. I'm going to have this bias. Only those who made it through get to tell the story. We got to be open and upfront to confront these things. We got to be open to lead with being able to tell the story. If you're someone who's watching this video and you've been through something, you should speak up. You should be on this channel to speak your testimony. If you feel convicted enough that this is something you want to be able to share, you could be saving somebody's life. So we include the interviews and the research clips from experts like, Dr. Susan Lipkins and Dr. Elizabeth Allen to explain how hazing manipulates that. We look at researchers, people who have credibility to share their insights on really how hazing has shaped, communities and really devastated families, to be honest with you. So let's look at the expansion beyond the college here. It's not just fraternities, not just sororities. We look at hazing that is also in bands, athletic teams, fire, and then of course police, academic academies. We look at even corporate sales teams have adopted forms of hazing. I bet you didn't even know that. There's a professional hazing aspect. If you've been the new person yourself, you probably have, working at a new job, you've probably been the person that had to go grab the coffee, right? You had to been the person to find yourself in situations where you had to do something to get accepted. Even in looking at affinity groups, there are affinity groups within some of the big top corporate companies, that have this sense of either doing some type of community service, doing some type of good, to be a part of them, how people feel like there's a value add. You'd be surprised what grown people past 30, 40 are willing to do to essentially get themselves up the ladder. The abuse doesn't stop. But let me keep going here. So we break down really that blueprint from Greek life and military culture now influences that professional as a social spaces far beyond the quad. Got to think about that in full detail and really see, am I a contributor? Ask yourself, am I a contributor to the hazing that even I have, heard about in colleges, universities, but am I a contributor to it in my workplace? I don't want to get too lost here, but we got to make sure that we're having young people speak up about their experiences with hazing. If they've been hazed, they should be able to talk more about it, because there are a lot of parents who don't have a clue what's happening. They don't have a clue. And these young people are getting assaulted and victimized, getting basically victimized, they're being hurt, they're being tortured, all of those things that are happening in the shadows and where the silence is happening. So how do we break that chain? If hazing has a history, it definitely can have an end. We have to spotlight some things here. Recent legislation like the Stop Campus Hazing Act, which was passed in December of last year under the Biden administration. This was basically key legislation to hold schools accountable to the data that they have in reference to hazing. There are a few dates that are coming up. October, I think it's like towards the end of this year, there's a key part of that legislation that goes into the effect. It's just the deadline. And then there's another, the following year, there's another part to that deadline. And all that really means, these deadlines, is that these schools will have to have reporting, easy access on their data as far as hazing. They have to collect all their data. They have to be transparent about hazing data. So also, let me say, you can go to hazinginfo.org. Jolene Houts runs that website, has a lot of great data as far as hazing goes. So you'll want to be a part of that and be able to see what it's about. So hazinginfo.org. Let me go to the next thing here. Prevention models, like the hazing prevention framework from stophazing.org. There's a national organization, stophazing.org, that will be actually working with and collaborating with on an upcoming series called Parents Forgotten: The Cause of Hazing You Don't See. They have prevention framework so that hazing has a clear understanding that it cannot enter schools anymore, campuses anymore, because of the levels of transparency and data and safeguards as well. Survivors and families, of course, that are leading the fight for reform. There's plenty of families who have been affected by hazing who have in turn stepped up. Jolene House is one of them. The mother of George Doesnt, his mother is leading that fight. Kenitha Safir, Brianna Gather, like the mothers of those victims, they are coming out and they are saying enough is enough. I'm not sure what Caleb Wilson's mother has done just yet. I know she's just graduated from getting her degree, and she had a big face of Caleb Wilson and support as she was getting her degree. But I'm sure she's probably going to be doing what she can to help really mitigate hazing from happening. So we need to look at survivors to share their stories. We need to make sure we have families that step up and share their stories and lead the change, lead the charge. So we have to close with examples of schools and orgs really just doing it right, and ask viewers to be a part of changing the culture, not just passing it on. Hazing didn't start with you, and it shouldn't end with someone else's funeral. We owe it to the next generation to tell the truth, break the cycle, and build belonging without breaking people down. My call to action for you, because I'm not going to stay too long with you today, is to subscribe, Coaching Unplugged, because we're going to be telling more of these stories. Having an understanding, I think, of the historical aspect of hazing is important as we look to help prevent it for the future. Visit stophazing.org. There is a national fundraiser going on towards hazing research. This is life-saving research, y'all. So if you can support, the link to the National Hazing Research Fund is in my bio. I'd love to have you support whatever you can. This goes towards to help really save young people from dying from this. So, and to have that happen, we need the research as much as possible. So please show your support. Share this video. Let's start the conversation. Let's continue to have the conversation. And better yet, parents, mom, I want you to talk to your kids as early as now. 15, this is for the rising sophomores, rising juniors, rising seniors in high school. If they're in college, when they're on right now, they're getting ready to come back home for summer break, have the conversation with them. Ask them what they feel about Greek life, fraternities, sororities, hazing in general. If they're in bands, marching bands, ask them as well. My call to action is for the parents to start asking questions, also to the schools, the actual organizations. Don't be ashamed, don't be afraid to walk up to a chapter member of an organization and be candid and say, what is your organization doing to protect as a chapter against hazing? What are they doing? Be bold about it. Nothing wrong with asking a question. Be sure to also, of course, ask the admissions officer. Campus safety. There's a chief of police on the campuses. They have to be able to be a way for young people to get their answers on how this can be dangerous. Mandatory in orientation courses. I mean, I can go on and on, but I think you get the picture. These are the safeguards that we can put together. This is the guardrails that must be in place on every college campus or university. If there's a certain number to call or hotline for emergency services, I bet you, and there needs to be another similar line for just hazing in general. Maybe some type of messaging system to report in anonymously if they have to. But there's an aspect of fear that comes with being ostracized on a college campus, especially on a HBCU. People take things really too far and it can get ugly. But so we have to make sure that young people on these campuses feel not only supported, that they are protected. It is my utmost mission to really be a part of the focus for young people to be protected and safe, so that they can enjoy whatever organization they decide to be a part of without really in kind of fear that their life might be put in jeopardy. So I have a hope. I have a lot of hope from the work that we're doing together to help end hazing, to address these stories, to be able to talk on the origin of hazing, to be able to find out what is our next steps. Many of you have mentioned stiffer penalties, and as far as punishment goes, maybe on the federal level as well. And I do think that those things can be addressed. Absolutely. This is not horse playing around, young people just being silly, fun and games. We see the dangers of that's happening. We see the lives that are destroyed. We see the shell of someone we once knew get converted into something totally different from what they experienced. Some not even just a year ago, some a few months ago, some 15 years later, 20 years later, 30 years later. These are adults that are still fighting with the atrocities of their past, dealing with an acceptance and being a part of these organizations. I'm not going to be before you too long today and make it past 30 minutes, but I will say this. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. I hope that by now I've earned your subscription. It's definitely appreciated, as we'll be dropping more of these videos again, as always, every week. I do have something else I wanted to say. My mind just went blank about it. Oh, what do you think of the video? Leave your comments. Your feedback means everything to me. It helps me to be able to make our videos a lot more candid, a lot more real, whatever we have to do so that the message gets out there. But I need to make sure I have all the feedback. So if you do me 100 and just shoot me a comment, let me know what you think of the history of hazing. Is it something that, we have to, what can we do? What's your position on it? On the historical factor of it? I literally got my mind just jumbled for a second, but I just feel like I'd love your feedback. It really will help. So let me know what you think of the subject. Let me know what you think, what we can do together as a community to help end hazing, in your opinion, from looking at our history, what we've seen. What's your take on it? Leave your comment. I will be excited to have you join us next week, Monday, as we talk to a survivor. Be there. Your support is everything. Would love to have you watch and share your insights and bring your questions. And of course, as always, this is where the silence ends. Good night.